Hi everybody, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today I am here to show you how to sew the first project in our studio design series. This is a great caddy that you can use for a variety of purposes. It's a good size. Finish, it measures approximately 11 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall and 5 inches deep. What really makes it unique is that there is a divided interior compartment. So it also has two little handles, and if you select a twill fabric or one of the premier prints, which is what this is from, the caddy is going to stand on its own nicely and be perfect for tabletop use. I know a lot of you had shared that you had storage concerns with your studio design. If you're able to use your vertical space and install some narrow shelves, this will sit perfectly on your shelves. Don't forget, if you head over to Sewspire.com and then look in the top navigation there, you'll see a link that says Happy Mail, and you could just enter your first and last name, email address, and you can be entered to win this very caddy. I'm going to give it away next week. If you entered last week, you know that you're in the drawing to win a big box of designer fabric remnants, and I have selected that winner, and I want to let her know in case she's watching. Congratulations, Melanie Reed. You are the winner of the remnant box. I'm going to reach out to you via email. If you just reply to that with your address, I'll ship out your fabric right away. Everybody else who entered last week is still in the drawing for this week's little divided caddy. If you haven't entered yet, you can head on over there and do that, and you'll be entered for the caddy and all subsequent handmade Happy Mail drawings. So I want to go ahead and get started and show you how to make this. It comes together very easy. For this project, you are going to need about 3/4 yards of 54-inch fabric, and you're going to need 3 pieces, which are 6 inches by 12 inches, 3 rectangles, and then you're going to need 12 6-inch squares. So those are 6 inches by 6 inches. You'll need 12 of those. And then for the little handles, you're going to need 2 pieces that measure 3 inches wide by 8 inches long. And to begin, we're going to craft the 2 little boxes that will create the interior. So for the interior, you'll need 10 of these 6-inch squares. And this is a very simple construction process whereby you're going to position 2 of the squares right sides facing and stitch down the right hand side using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You open that up and you're going to attach a 3rd square to the left hand side and stitch that. And now you have a tri-fold panel. Set that aside for just a second. Take 2 more squares, position those right sides facing, and stitch across the top. Open that up, and then you're going to position that on top of the tri-panel, centering that panel with only 2 squares like this, and stitch from seam to seam. You're essentially creating a very large T. Okay, then here's the T. And I want you to take this side and align it with the side of the base of that T. And then you can see this cube is starting to take shape, and we just need to connect this side with this side. now the cube is definitely taking shape. You just have 2 holes there at the base, which you'll align and stitch seam to seam. The first cube is complete, and you'll repeat that same process for the second cube. You can go ahead and fold those top edges over approximately 1 inch. This fabric is a good weight, and you can just press it with your fingers. Go ahead and complete the second cube, and then we'll start the exterior. Okay, now I have my 2 cubes finished, and this will make the interior. And I'm going to set both of those aside. For the exterior, you have 2 of the 6x6 squares and 3 of the 6x12 rectangles. To begin, it's the same construction process, it's just we have the larger front, base, and rear panels. So you're going to attach 1 of the 6-inch squares, which is the side, right sides facing to the right hand side of one of those larger rectangles. Same seam allowance, 3/8 of an inch. Then open that up and attach the other rectangle to the left hand side. And now we have our trifold. Then we're going to take the 2 remaining rectangles and position those right sides facing and stitch across that long edge. Then you open that up and you're going to position the base with the base to create that big T stitching from seam to seam. And I have my T here, and I'm going to attach this side to this top side and stitch end to end. And now, rather than a cube, I'm creating a long rectangular box. I have to attach these 2 sides. Stitch from end to end. And now the long rectangular box is definitely taking shape. Should still have the 2 holes at the end. You just line up those pieces of fabric and stitch seam to seam. And now the exterior is complete. We just need to turn that right side out. And then for this, fold that top edge inward approximately 1 inch. And we're going to set this aside for a moment. Get your 2 panels there and configure those how you'd like. I have a clear direction on mine, so I want the arrows going in the same direction. And you're going to align these interior side seams. Go ahead and put at least 1 pin there to hold it. And I want you to stitch from seam to seam to connect those 2 cubes. Okay, now I have attached the 2 cubes at the top there. And I want to bring back over my exterior and fit that divided interior inside of there. You're going to begin by lining up those side seams, putting a pin in that, and then going over to the other end, lining up those side seams and putting a pin in there to hold that. And then you can work on lining up the front and the rear, using as many pins as necessary to keep that aligned. Okay, and everything fits in there really good. It's totally taking shape. I just want to craft the handles, which are made from the 3" by 8" strips of fabric. To make the handle, you fold that piece of material in half long ways, open it up, and fold the outer edges in to meet on that center press line, and then fold over those finished edges, press that again, and you're going to stitch just down that open edge with a very narrow top stitch. Then you've crafted one handle, repeat that process for the second handle. And then take those little handles and position them with the stitching up in between that exterior and interior layers. You can flip that around so it's going the right way, and you'll put 2 little pins in that to hold your handle in place while you sew that top on. Okay, both handles are in place. You can just visually, you can measure, or visually you can check and make sure those handles are about the same height and adjust as needed. And now we're ready to attach these remaining sides. You're going to work on one side and then on the second side because you've already sewed this middle. So start right at that center seam and stitch all the way around the left side, back stitch at the beginning and the end to lock that in, then take that off of the machine and break the thread and start at the seam on the right side, stitch all the way around, back stitch at the beginning and the end, and then break that thread. And we will have the most adorable divided desktop organizer ever. Easiest way to do this is to remove that machine deck so you have lots of play there. I'm starting right at that side seam. I can feel it. Okay, now I'm coming up close to that center compartment and I can feel all that bulk and extra layers there. So I'm just going to be very mindful positioning my finger there where I know I'm going to need to stop and back stitch. And you're likely to feel some resistance because that's too much fabric for your machine to move through. Okay, so I now have one side completely attached. I've stitched the center initially, and now all the way around that exterior is attached. Now it's time to attach the other side. So I'm just going to fit that up there, and I'm going to get as close to where I left off sewing as possible. Alright, I've gone all the way around that outer edge. I just need to trim up these little threads at the top, and then I have this totally fabulous divided caddy that I can use to organize a variety of things. This obviously would be great in so many places, even outside of the sewing studio. I hope you enjoyed this project. I will be back next week with another inspired sewing project geared specifically for studio organization. I hope you'll join me then. Don't forget, you can enter to win this original design over at Sewspire.com under the Happy Mail link at the top of the page. And until we meet again, please know the creative genius in me salutes the creative genius in you. Have a beautiful day, everyone.